Good morning, everyone. Welcome to MLS Monday. If you have not been to an MLS Monday before, welcome. So glad it's your first time. My name is Joanna. I am your MLS director here at Florida Gulf Coast MLS. And we like to hold our MLS Mondays every week where we go over a new tool, a new concept, sometimes some hot trends that might be going on, changes in the industry, things like that, so that you can better utilize your membership here with us at the MLS, because there are so many tools that you get that, most of our membership doesn't even realize that they have, but also so that you can utilize the MLS system and Matrix to the best of its capabilities. Um, so if you were with us last week, we went through market stats and all the different market stats tools that we have available, because there are several. You've got three here in our MLS and then one up at the state that's offered with the statewide data. And this week we are going through the CMAs. So we kind of like to try to tie things in together week to week. So there are a lot of times where you're starting to pull market data, market stats to have conversations with people who are interested in possibly listing their home. And then that next step, right, aside from a broad market overview, is getting to know them, their property, and producing a full CMA for them. So the reason that we also have brought the CMA class to you guys is Matrix, your MLS system, has recently upgraded the CMA tool that is inside of it. So for years and years, we've had the same CMA program in there. We've heard a lot of different things that are needed. And they have definitely delivered and given us a beautiful new tool. So this one helps out with the compatibility on the screen as well. So aside from adding new things into the CMA, the visibility part is great. Before it was very small. Like if you have your screens up on a desktop, it kind of only took up like half of the screen. It now fills the whole screen, and depending on which device you're using, whether it's your cell phone, your smaller, maybe like MacBook or a tablet, or you're putting it up on the bigger screens, you guys will be able to see it in that size. So before it always remained like this small size, but now it's made to fit any type of screen. And that goes for all of the upgrades that you guys have seen in Matrix over the past year, whether it's the new search, the new dashboard, or anything like that. So the CMA, again, has great new functionalities, and it is made to fit your screen better. So we'll go through a full CMA, but the whole idea behind this is so that you guys can kind of see and utilize that new tool. And I do suggest after we go through this that you give it a test drive. You can't break it, do it on your own home, do it on your neighbor's home, test it out so that when you need to sit down and do a full CMA, you're ready to go with that. So what I want to start out with today is pulling up some resources, right? The first step of doing a CMA is to gather as much resources as possible. So if you can, it's, have that conversation with the seller and get the details that you can get from them. A lot of people I've seen, they have intake sheets, right? Like, hey, if you want me to do a CMA on your home, or if you're ready to list, here's, an intake sheet. That's something that each person I've seen or different brokerages have created for themselves. And it's things that continue to grow with us, because you always think, you get to a sticky situation and you're like, you know what, next time I'm going to do that differently. Next time I'm going to ask that different question. So it could be an intake form, but let's assume that, somebody has come to you and they're like, hey, I want you to list my property. It's at 123 Main Street. And that's all you get, right? You got no data, no information. So you become a PI, right? Private investigator for this property. And in doing your research, you've got to go out and find your resources. So before starting your CMA, great places to start would be LIPA, right? The Lee County Property Appraiser site. Or if you're in a different county, right? We service Lee County here, but I know that you guys also list a lot in Collier County, or up north in the Punta Gorda area. Pull up the Property Appraiser site. You can do that, but then we also have a plethora of tools here in the MLS that I always utilized when I was practicing. I pulled up as many resources as possible because I wanted to see, do people have varying information? Do they have other fields that maybe a certain tool doesn't have? So I utilize Realist a lot. Realist pulls in the public data as well as the MLS data and the history on it. I know a lot of people also use Remine. They pull in all of that data as well, and RPR. So yes, all of your data tools start with an R. They love to confuse us. So you've got Realist, RPR, and Remine that you can utilize for that as well. So pull up as much information as possible. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can start start this process. What's great about this is I also like to save all of the information I've found because let's see if that loads. There she goes. Um, Once you've pulled all this information and you've done all this work for the CMA in hopes that you'll get the listing, what this next step comes into is inputting the listing, right? The whole hopes is that you win this over, but why have to go back and research and find everything? I like to do all the research in the beginning and make sure I save everything. I'll save the report from RPR or Remine. I'll save the report from the Lee County Property Appraiser's office or a link to if you have a transaction manager software, like I save a link to that exact property in LIPA, whatever it is that you can do so that you're not having to go back out here because all this stuff that we're going to look at today for research is also the same stuff that you're one day going to have to input into the MLS. So let's go ahead and pull up an example property so that we can start our research journey. So we can see here typing in the address, thankfully it came up right away, parcel details. This is going to give us the basics, right? And I've chosen this property in specific because it is your general 3-2 out in Cape Coral. So it'll pull a lot of comps for us. But as we go through this process, I'll talk to you too about sometimes having to expand your parameters because maybe you have a very niche specific home and you're not always lucky to have a lot of different parameters and a lot of different options to choose from. So in here is where you're going to find all of your basic information that you need to start that CMA, right? Because you want to see how many bedroom bathrooms does it have? What's the square footage? What year was it born? Not born. What year was it built? All of those different things. But what's really, really cool when I talk to a lot of agents, and our staff does here on the phone, I don't think a lot of people realize this beautiful button right here. We just think it's an icon and nobody realizes that it's a button. If you click this, it opens up the actual property appraiser's stat report. So this beautiful thing right here gives you all of these details. And we utilize this a lot for input, but it also can help if you're trying to narrow down things when it comes to that property. Again, we're acting like they haven't told us anything. So a lot of people will go to the property appraiser site and you're, okay, yeah, bedroom, bathroom, square footage, year built, but what do we know is different about this property to other properties? Is it tile throughout? Is it carpet throughout? Those types of things you're going to find here. You can see interior floor, and they've got multiple listed because it's got carpet and tile. What is the heating situation? What's the AC situation? Like all of these tiny little details that people always struggle to find are right here in the property appraiser report. And I know everybody's going to ask me, hey, how did you get there again? All of these details. Again, that's this beautiful little icon right here next to property details because you can open up the property details tab and you can see here, it's just going to give you the single family, 1 unit, measurement of units. Here's the building information. There's like the basics here, but that little detail report that comes up here with all these pieces could really, really help you. All right, so again, the other thing I like to do is come out to one of our many tools and open up that data as well. I'm going to go ahead and hop into Realist, but the other ones I pointed out, Remine and RPR, right? All the tools that start with R are going to be all of your data housing tools. And I like to pull them up in here just so that as I conduct my research, I can verify the information. And it depends on your property, it depends on you, it depends on your consumer, how detailed you want to get. I really, really nerd out. I'm detail oriented. If you ever take those disc profiles, I'm the C personality. So I like to really dig into my properties, scope them out, stock them out, figure out all of the little things that might pop up later because I do not like surprises whatsoever. All right, so if we open up this property, this is the full-blown report that Realist gives you, and this pulls in all of the tax data. It pulls in lots of stuff that they've gone and found demographics. There's neighborhood information, the assessor's map, right, which is coming right from LIPA. So there's a lot of stuff that you're going to find on the property appraiser site. And then there is additional information from there. But you can also see that this property has been previously listed on the MLS. So it's going to show you the MLS data that was listed before as well, which gives you an idea to see if something changed. Did somebody like misrepresent the property in the past? Really, really good things to look at. I would not suggest ever just looking at a property that was listed prior and just looking on the MLS, because a lot of times I know that we're all perfect here on this webinar, but realtors do make mistakes, right? So we don't want to utilize the information that they put in it and trust it as fact. We hear that a lot here in MLS. Like we go to report somebody for inaccurate information and they'll always say, well, the previous agent put it and I just copied what they put. You're representing the client. You've got to double check that information. You can't blame the realtor prior if they put in the wrong information. So, again, just a really, really cool place to find all of that information, compare, contrast, figure out, what kind of questions you're going to need when you sit down to have those conversations with the seller as well. And another little tip here is we've been having a lot of people having issues putting in their lot dimensions, which is a required field in the MLS. And your lot dimensions are right here on Realist. They're also part of the input process. If you were inputting that listing, you could click on the map and click lot dimensions and they'll show it. But a lot of people have issues finding those lot dimensions. So just something to point out while we're in there. All right, so let's hop back over. We've got all of our information up, right? Let's say we've dug through this, we've read through it, we've looked for any kind of red flags, are the bedrooms and bathrooms off? Is the square footage like obnoxiously wrong? Is there, any kind of issues with the property? Do we see unpermitted work? Anything like that? Any red flags? All the information that we've gone down that rabbit hole, we've dug through it. Now we're ready to go and start our CMA process. So with the new CMA, if you hover over my matrix, you'll notice that there is My CMAs and CMA Manager New. So My CMA will bring you into the old CMA. So we've got some people who have issues with change, right? We've all been there. They're like, oh my gosh, please don't change this on me. So we try to make this process easy. Same with the dashboard, right? I think I've told you guys before, you can click in and out of the classic dashboard and the new dashboard. That choice is totally up to you. So CMAs, same thing. If you go to My CMAs, you'll get the old experience and you can access all of your CMAs there in the old experience. If we come down to My CMA Manager New, this will bring you into the new experience. Now, any CMAs that you've done prior will also be housed here. So you can still access all of your CMAs in this new one. All of mine are cleared out because I want you guys to be able to see exactly what it's going to look like if you're starting fresh. So, and then we will come back to what it looks like in the chart form once we've created our CMA, because it is a very, very nice view. Now that they've upgraded this, they've color coded things, super, super great. So where we're going to start is up here under new CMA report. And then we're going to go ahead and add a subject property. And you can see here that this is going to start to pull in addresses for us from Google. Oops, wrong address. 21st Place, Cape Coral, Florida. You can also click create a new subject property if that address does not exist. What this is doing is like pulling in the location for you and pulling in some information for you based on the public record. So this is one of the new features of this new CMA that we did not have before in Matrix, the suggested comps. So what this does is it runs its AI magic, and I don't really want to call it AI because there is an algorithm that is a fully calculated algorithm plugged into the back of this that's going to find properties that are near your subject property that fit the parameters, right, based on that public record and the tax roll. They're going to find comps based on that. I do suggest, because you can turn this off if you don't want it, easy peasy lemon squeezy, just shut it off and go to create CMA. I always suggest turning this on, and then you can choose how many you want. We'll start with 10 just for this one. You can go up to 50 comps if you want, because once we click next, you'll be able to choose whether you want to use those ones or not, and then you'll be able to add in any that you want. So personally, I like to have the system show me 10, even if I'm not going to agree with it, even if I have some in my mind already that I've looked up and I sold Sally's house 3 doors down just a couple months ago, and it's an exact replica, and I'm going to use that one. Okay, you can certainly go in and edit through those. But I really want to see what the system has to say because to me, I like varying opinions, even if it's a computer I have a varying opinion with. I want to see because it creates innovation at the end of the day, right? What are they seeing that I'm not seeing? And what did they find that I might not be able to find? So that option is there for you. So we'll click Create CMA. And then we can see right away that these are the 10 comps that they have selected for us. Now, for those of you who have used our classic CMA, the old CMA, you can already see the difference here, right? The way it fills the screen, the things are color coded. It's just so much more user friendly than the last one. So any of these that you don't agree with, you can simply hit the X and get rid of. Okay. And you can see they've given us a good amount. Like there's several active, there's a pending one in here, there's sold, there is even a few expired. So depending on how you like to pull your comps and what you think is good market data in comparison with that house, then apply your knowledge here as a realtor and decide what it is that you want. I know a lot of people as of lately are very choosy on what active properties they allow in their CMA, because there's so many properties that have been sitting on the market for a while, and it's like at the end of the day, you've got a lot of people who will only use the sold data to form that CMA. And then if you want, you run a separate report, right? Maybe you just pull a search inside of the MLS and you show them the properties that they're currently competing with. You show them the properties that went nowhere and expired because maybe that helps them achieve a more realistic goal of pricing, right? I think we still have a lot of sellers right now that think, let me put it on the market for, a really, really high price because we're still living in like the 2020 to 2022 days. So you can show them what their competition looks like, but maybe that's not what you want contributing to that price that you're going to suggest they go with, right? So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to close out, delete this comp, delete this comp. We'll say we'll remove some of those actives. What's great is through this process, you can take a deeper dive into the comps than you ever could before. So with the ones that we have selected right now, this is the map view, right? So here's my subject property. I can get a real idea of how close or far away these comps are. This is also especially important when you're like in a community and you don't want anything that's outside of that community. You get a bird's eye view of exactly where those properties are. Are they in a different phase of the community? Where are they in a different building? If you're doing a condo, you get that bird's eye view so that you can make that decision. But what's great is you've got several different ways here to analyze that data. Before it would just give you a list and then you had to click into each MLS number and like comb through the small print of the MLS details to decide if that property was a good fit or not. But now what you have is these properties and you comb through the map view of it. Okay, are they close enough? Are they where I want them to be? Then let's take a dive into the comparison of the details. Instead of opening up each of those little MLS reports and reading through it and going, okay, I need to check for a pool and an outdoor kitchen. And oh, what about this? And then you've got your checklist on a sticky note in front of you. No longer. Absolutely no longer. So you can sit here and scroll through all the details and look across it completely. Because some of us, while we might just be focusing on, okay, I need comps to make sure that they all have pools, or do they all have a den? Do they all have, I don't know, whatever special feature it is that your property has? Instead, you can analyze each of those, which means that you're not going to forget a field, right? Maybe we forgot to check, does each of them have a fence in the exterior features? Totally didn't think that through, and that contributes to the price, right? The storm protection, things like that. So comb through each of these in the comparison and the side by side in the details. And then you scroll through them like this. And what is great is your subject property remains still here. It remains the same so that you can compare it line by line and you don't lose that. You also can change and make adjustments to each of these if you've done research and this is not accurate. So let's say one of these properties technically has like a 3-bedroom instead of a 2-bedroom. You can do that. You can edit the fields that are displaying along the left-hand side as well. So again, if some of these details are not important to the type of business that you are doing, simply get rid of them. Before, this was not like a customizable experience. It now is. You can also add fields So the field you would search, every single field that you see in the MLS can be added here. Okay. So if you see it on any MLS printout report, it is available. Again, the example I used was fences, right? Exterior features. That's not on here. So you can certainly add it on there. Maybe you're a super detail oriented person like I am. You can add every single field on here if you wanted to. But I know for our personalities that are like the D personalities, they're like, just give me the overview. Don't get into the details, right? So then you can also change the way that you view these side by side. So instead you can view it either horizontally or vertically, right? Depending on how your brain works, what you need. And then there's the photo comparison, which is pretty cool. And a lot of people are like, what do you even use that for? Well, for some properties, like if you have an exquisite property that's like, perfect to the T and you want to like weed out the ones that are fixer uppers and you can't really tell that through the data, maybe you're just telling it through the photos, that's a great way to do it. Or if you're looking for something that is not a field, maybe like your house is purple and you're looking for something that also has crazy colors. There's a lot of different ways that you can use that photo comparison. Moving on to the next way to compare the data, the full property report. So again, you used to have to click the MLS number and open up the little screen of the property view. This is the entire listing, and you can click through each of them, but it fills your screen completely. So if you need to take a deeper dive into that data and you want to open up the tax fields and the flood maps and things like that, you can do that with this type of comparison. And then there is the summary. This one is a new feature as well. And I nerd out over it all day. It is in a timeline fashion, and then you can choose the type of data you're analyzing and then the way you want it to display. So of all of the comps that we have right now, this puts it on a price timeline. So your average is 255,000, and you can see how far spread, because obviously I did not comb through my comparisons very, very well, because these are just lots that are next door to the property, right? Without any structures on them, but I wanted to be able to keep those in there to show you guys this timeline and how far spread things are so that you're able to go, something doesn't feel right. Why are these all the way over here? These are all the way over there. Why is my data so skewed and so far apart? Really, really cool way to see that. But then you also can compare square footage, right? I would be able to go, oh, hey, there's no square footage for this one. That makes sense. But especially when you're comparing and you for sure know that you've got all structural properties, or maybe you've got a house that's really, really big and you've got a house that's really, really small. So then you want to be able to see, do they cluster more together when you price them per square foot, right? Because that can make a really, really big difference. So you've got several different ways to analyze that data. What's great is you can also put it into a condensed version, right? So you've got 7 properties here, 3, 1. These are all listed. And then the average. And you can also stack them like this. The way that it comes is like this, though. So you can view it in several different ways. And then you can also click into those listings as well. So if you wanted to delete them from the timeline, you can click X and delete the comp as well. So in every single one of these steps, you'll notice that the X is here. Up here, the X is here. So at any point you can remove these comps. As you comb through them, you go, oh, you know what? Those really aren't a match. So let's go ahead and get rid of that through any analyzation tab. You can get rid of those. So it looks like we have a question. Can you show us how you delete a criteria, like removing the lots or changing days on market, or do you view only sold properties? So Susie, I believe where you're asking is on here. You have the edit fields tab, and that's where you can change which you can either add or you can turn these ones off. So you can decide which fields you're looking at. So you could add on the days on market. You could add on the type of property that it is or anything like that. But also what you may be talking about from a standpoint, when we started here, we just did whatever the system deemed was the best subject properties. So the reason I want to come back to this is most of the time you'll keep some of these, you'll be like, yep, that's great. But then you're also going to want to do your own research. So we come back to where we started, which was on the map tab, and that is why you have the find more comps button. I do also want to point out, even though we started on the maps tab, you can take a step back and go to your subject property and you can edit out this information. So this will change what you see on the report. So let's say they call you and they say, hey, maybe they give you a little bit of information, hopefully. They say, I know public record says it's a 3-2, but we did add on a bedroom and, we're waiting for that permit to close out and for the public record to update. Then you can go ahead and come out here and change this to a 4-bedroom or make whatever changes it is that you might need so that when you're going through your comparisons, it shows accordingly. Okay. But again, that next step would be, aside from analyzing the ones that you already have, picking and choosing the ones you want to keep and get rid of, is finding more comps. So on here, this is where you would run a search. Or let's say when you started, you turned off that switch and you said, don't suggest any comps to me. You would start with a blank slate and you would click find comps. What this does is opens up the search so that you can search the entire MLS for any properties that you so do please. You can see on here, this is our subject property, okay? So with this, let's go ahead. We've got residential. You can see that I was searching earlier, so it did keep the parameters I was searching. We got residential, single family. This is not waterfront. This is not golf access. Cape Coral 33993. And then you could fill these out more. So again, this is great for if you're doing like a very, very specific niche type of property. This is where you're going to be able to, the AI is probably just going to pull the surrounding ones. If it doesn't have like a set feature for whatever makes your property so special, the AI or the algorithm on the back end may not choose the properties that are best for you. So the example I like to use most is like stilt homes. We get calls all the time where they're like, I'm trying to pull comps on a stilt home. I don't even know where to start. Well, we have that, right? Like you have that inside of the features where there is stilt home, or specifically, maybe like not a lot of houses in the neighborhood have fences. So you want to filter by fences. Another one we get a call on a lot is a exterior, like a kitchen by the pool. So you want to build those in for like homes that have a lot of these specific upgrades. You're going to utilize this specific search to add in all of those niche features that you might need. So let's see, we'll keep scrolling on this one. I believe private pools listed on here. Yes, this one does have a private pool. Exterior features is what we were talking about earlier. If it had a fence, you could select fence. This one does not have a fence. New construction, if that's what you're doing that for. Anyways, we could go on and on for days here. But what's also important out here is the status. I think this one right now is pulling all statuses, and I probably scrolled past it. But if you are looking at a property, again, that is very, very niche, and it might be hard to try and find something that's within your parameters. Let's say you go for that stilt home. Well, just looking at how many stilt homes closed in the past 60 days, right? A lot of people run their CMAs, they start at 60 days. Or I see also like 120 days. So you look a couple months out, let's say. You may not find any stilt homes that closed in that area. You might have to, expand your parameters out into a year or so, depending on how niche that property is. So you can see here the close date, it's anything that's 62 days and above. So with this, let's do 120 days and above and see what else that pulls for us. Oh, we can see we got some more comps. So on here, you'll see exactly those dots that display on my map are also what display here. So if we want to add these in, we can simply select these. And once you've selected them, you can select all of them, you can select some of them. You can continue to run your search, pull more data, play with this part as long as you need to get exactly what properties it is that you're looking for. Once you're done, go ahead and click Add Selected to the CMA. And then you'll be able to scroll through them here, see that they're added. And then again, if you need to remove something, because once you start, you grab those really quick because they look good on the surface. But once you start comparing them, if they aren't a good match, then great. Just go ahead and delete them. I like to run that search. So, and it again, it depends on how your brain works. Do you want to add in the computer generated ones and comb through those and then add in your own, or do you add in the computer generated ones, add in a bunch of your own, and then comb through them all at the same time? Totally up to you. You can do it either way. I also, personal preference, when I go out here and I comb through finding more properties, oop, I knew that was going to happen. I like to comb through and add in as many properties as possible, right? Like I like to start with a wide cast net. Think of it like fishing. Start with that wide cast net, maybe add in like 20 properties in here, and then go through and delete the ones that are furthest from matching my subject property, right? The more you put in the bucket, the better off you are. Even if you know, hey, I'm going to get rid of half of these, but then you've got more to compare to. So you're not starting with, oh, well, I started with five and I only have one property that matches, right? That's not fun. So just some kind of tidbits. Everybody works differently. There's no, right or wrong or indifferent. That's what makes you you, and that's what makes you the specialist, and why people hire you is for the ways and the reasons that you do business. All right, so once we've gone through and we've done this full, analyzing of all of this data here, which is the fun part. What you can do at any point also is if you need to like save and come back, you start working on this, you want to go find more information, you've got to run to appointment, you've got the save button up here. So it'll save your work where it's at, and you can click close. And now you see at any point right here, this is where it's listed. So we'll back out of here completely so you can see where we're at. So we come back into the dashboard, CMA manager, boom, it's here. And this is what I was talking about before. The view of this is so much better than the old ones, because you can see right away we've got 10 comps, two of them are active, five sold, one pending, two expired. It gives you like a really, really great viewpoint right from the beginning. So when you come back to this, you can click the button to edit it. So you can go back to working on it. And then you also have the option to delete it as well if needed. So we'll go back in and we'll edit it. It'll take us right back to where we were, right? Going through all of our different comps. So what's great about the new CMA is it focuses very, very heavily on the data and the comps. That was something that they got a lot of feedback on, right? You want to be able to come in here and easily take a deep dive into the data. You don't want to have to go and pull all kinds of reports and do all kinds of research. You want it right here at your fingertips. So you'll notice that the most of the effort is focused in on these comparables, the data, and comparing them like 10 different ways. But next up, you've got all of your data, you know exactly what properties you've got, and you think you've got the best options for your seller, the closest to their property, so that they can get a true depiction of what they're looking at if they were to list their home. What you're going to do next is go to personalize. And this is where you will create the actual report that you either print off or send off to them. So in here, and you'll notice I obviously, the last class I did, we shut all of these pages off. So you will be able to decide of all of these pages that they give you options to, which one are going to show in that report. So we'll click include page. And at any point you decide, I don't like that, you can shut that page off with this little eyeball icon. All right, so going through these, you've got your cover sheet, and all of this branding pulls into the CMA from your branding center. So make sure that you've got that done. So if you come up here and you go to manage branding and you go to settings, there's a CMA tab in there. There's a branding center in here. It all syncs, and then it does that for you automatically so that you don't have to recreate the wheel every single time. And what's great is when you're looking at this, it shows you what it would look like on a web link, and then it shows you what it would look like on the PDF printout as well. And the system loves it when I zoom and use it at the same time. So you can see that those are two different layouts, depending on what it is that you're going to be doing with the consumer. And another thing, I know I keep harping on it, the old system versus the new system, but that's why we're here. The old system, it was just a PDF, right? So you were like sending it to them via email if you weren't meeting with them in person. And what's great is this web viewpoint fills the user's screen. And it's just such a much better experience for them as well. All right, so you've got cover sheet. You can choose between these two different cover sheets. So you make sure you turn one of them off so that you can decide which one it is that you want. So summary list, this is a summary of all of the properties that you chose. A nice little printout there. Let me go through and just click these really quick. All right. Price adjustments. So this shows any adjustments in prices that you may have made when you went through the comparables, and this gives them the side by side. What's really cool about the web presentation versus the PDF is it's a little bit more interactive. So you can see that the user, just like how you were able to scroll through the properties and compare them side by side, the user can do that as well. On the PDF printout, it takes a few pages because it will print them side by side, but you can see it only fits 3 at a time. So I always tell people, you can send it to them if you're not able to meet with them, send them the web link version, but also I would say if you're going to meet with them in person, pull up the web link version with them and then send them the link afterwards. I just personally prefer this view, but if you're a PDF person, then you're a PDF person. It's all good. All right, so this is the pro report. So this prints out like all of the details and the descriptions of it if it was previous, they were through the MLS. And then all kinds of analytics, all kinds of data. And this is why I tell you guys, like, before you use it, come out here and play with it because holy crow, man, the amount of data that's out here. And it's easier to understand what the data is trying to tell you and the story it's trying to tell if you do it on your own property, something you're familiar with. Because if you're not familiar with a property, you might look at something and go, what is it saying? So go ahead, pull yours up. You might be really interested on the data that it pulls as well. All right, price recommendations. This is based off of the comparables that you pulled as well. And this report is like written via, it takes all that information, it writes that report for you. So if you don't like what it's writing, again, simply turn it off. So then they also provide some great resource items in here. Let me just click all of these so we don't have to come back through. Stuff that might not. Pro report price recommendation. We just went through this one. All right, activity versus timing, the importance of pricing correctly, right? So these are just like informational. You'll notice there's nothing in here about that specific property, but these are data-driven reports that help you argue your point and why you should hire a realtor, why timing is important, why pricing is important. So if you need those, they're here for you. Again, they're just resources. They're included via from the developer. They're included on every single report just to help you drive your point home. So this is, again, something that they've created. My guarantee to you, what your promise is to them as a realtor, the effects of overpricing a property, right? We're all having those conversations right now. The benefits of using a realtor, the market analytics explanation. So this is the process that you do when you're trying to analyze a property, tells them a little bit of the backstory of how you got there. The asking price, percentage of buyers. This is all data that they've gotten from NAR and the housing authorities. Setting the price, the importance of setting the right price. Again, I think we had benefits, effects of overpricing, but then pitfalls of overpricing are different. Sources of buyers, where they can expect their buyers to come from. Steps to a positive showing, right? How to get their property set for that. What it takes to show a property. And then we're back to the data that was previously provided, which is the CMA map. So it shows all of your properties and it's on a map. So a lot of this stuff, from what it takes to show up to activity versus timing, those are all just resources. It's not about the property. That's everything that's here at the top. So you can choose if you want those in there or if you don't, right? Those are just there to help you out, but it's not really about the property detail, the property information, the property pricing. Those are things to just help you win that listing over. What's great is, and you'll notice these are a little out of order, probably because of my previous class that I have, but you can rearrange these however you see fit by grabbing the 6 boxes. You drag and drop, and you can put this in whatever order it is that you might need. What is also a benefit is over here at the top, you can add in PDFs. All right. So if you have for yourself that you've created, or maybe from your brokerage, you've got that all that information, like a lot of the stuff that they've provided here, you can add those in here. Maybe you already have your own sheet on, the importance of pricing something right. I'm sure a lot of you have sheets on why it's important to hire you or your brokerage, what makes you, what makes your brokerage important, all of those great things, the bios, the pamphlets of what you do for them, the different steps, what sets you apart from everybody else. You can drag and drop those PDFs in here, and you can add it in wherever you need to. It'll show up just like one of these, and you can drag and drop it wherever you so need. You also have the option to click reset on this, and it'll reset it back to the default. Let's say you totally made a mess of it and you want to start from scratch. You can do that, but then you can also set this as default. And this is really important for the first time you come out here and do a CMA. If you save a bunch of PDFs in here and you order these exactly how you like it, you can set this as the default. So for every CMA moving forward that you do, it'll come in the same order. It'll come with your PDF set. Again, so you're not recreating the wheel. And this experience is exactly curtailed to you. Okay, so that's a big important piece. And of course, make sure you click save here when you're done. At any point, if you need to go back to those comps, you've got that back arrow right there. And then you can continue to edit these as needed as well. I do want to point out, because we talk about personalizing this experience to what it is that you need exactly. When you are in the comparison feature and you edit out these fields, you have that same option in here where you can reset it back to exactly what it is that Matrix gave you in the beginning, or you can set this as default. So I know for a lot of people that work like communities, right? They're always adding in the sub-development, because let's say you're in Pelican Preserve, and I know I pick on them a lot. I'm sorry, Pelican Preserve. But they have 40 subdivisions, right? So my people in Pelican Preserve will add in the development and sub-condo, and they'll put those at the top. So you can see right away, is it in phase one? Is it are they in the same section as me? And if I primarily am selling in Pelican Preserve, every time I do a CMA, I don't want to have to rearrange that. So when I'm out here and I click edit, I can set that as my default so that every time I come out here, I have exactly the parameters I want and need. And then if I get a special circumstance, I can certainly change it up and I can edit it for that specific person, but then it'll always go back to the default I need so that my CMA manager is made exactly for how I do business every day, not how the average realtor does business every day. And that's what's important about these tools. So again, to get to all of those pages and what that report will look like, you come in here to personalize. You could also change the style. So these different styles and theming, you would make these in your branding center. Again, if you missed that part in the beginning, your branding center is right here. So you can choose between those different themes, and then you can save. But going back and forth between these, personalize is all of your PDF pages. And then in here, all of your comps are there to edit and go through as needed. And you never know, because 3 months from now, they could call you and say, hey, can you do another CMA? You've already got it done. You can come out here, freshen it up, and then click save again. So the next important piece of this is, well, how do I get it to them? This lovely share button here, this is where you can view the PDF or view the presentation very quickly. So let's say you sit down in front of them, you just open it up, you go into view mode. You also can send it to them. So you would create a new contact if they're not in your contacts already. You've got the subject line of that email and then the message that you want in there. You can also choose to make sure that you're blind copied on it. And then you choose, do they want a PDF attachment or do you want them to get the web presentation link? So whether you are in the view mode in front of them or sending it off to them, those are your options right there. Now, I do want to point out that while we've taken this pathway to get through the CMA and do all of our research, you also can start the CMA from a different point, right? So how we got here was we came here, we went to CMA Manager, and we clicked New CMA Report and took our steps. Now, there are a lot of people, and this would be especially if you're not using the auto-generated ways to find comparables, there are a lot of people that start right in the search. So if we come out to search, We type in our parameters, right? We've got the 3 bedroom, 2 bath, and we type everything in that we need, and we select out our comps. Now, I'm not being strategic in this one. You would take more time to do this, but to show you quickly, and we click through, we're like, this property matches, this property's good, this property, this property. Some of us just like to dig into that search right away and enter in our parameters. If you select out your comps that best fit, you can start from here instead, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 properties we've selected that we believe are comparables. You would then click the CMA button up here, enter in your subject property, and attach it to a contact. And you can see right here, it's utilizing those 5 properties I selected, and we click Create CMA, and that's how you could start the process. It'll take you right into the CMA manager that we've been viewing this whole time. But those are just 2 different ways to start the process, depending on how your brain works, right? Now, this is the new search, right? For those of you that are not comfortable with the new search, and maybe you haven't given it a test drive yet. The same thing here if we come to the classic searches. So single family, Cape Coral, We click Quest, it's going to pull a whole bunch of listings. But let's say we select out several different properties. And then next we click CMA. The thing with this is if you're using the classic search, it is going to bring you to that classic CMA. So you can, if you're still utilizing the old search, you certainly can do that. It'll pull you into old CMA. But if you want to start with the search and you want it to pull into the new CMA, then make sure you come out here and start with that new search. And it is because the new buttons and the new parameters are mapped into the new CMA, while the old search and the old parameters are mapped into the old CMA. Makes sense, right? When you look at mapping and data, it can't go to 2 places. So just a couple of different options for you there. Now, that is the entire CMA experience from start to finish inside of Matrix. I do want to point out a few cool options for you guys, but if you have any questions on that process or something that we did not cover, go ahead and utilize the chat. You can open that up and plug in any questions, and I'll come back to them as we get through them. What I do want to point out to you guys while we have a few minutes left here is, I'm absolutely in love with the new CMA that Matrix and Cotality have built out for us. What I do want to point out is if this isn't for you or you're looking for something different, and you haven't taken one of our CMA courses before, there are a lot of different tools to create CMAs with. And when it comes back to where we started at the beginning, right? RPR, Realist, and Remine all have CMAs built into them. So if you don't like the report that's generated, you're looking for something different, utilize these 3 tools as well. I'll show you where the buttons are on these really quick, not to confuse you where you're like, OMG, too much in one sitting. Just remember Matrix, right? If Matrix isn't for you, I want you to know what other resources you do have. So inside of Realist, right? We already pulled this up earlier. Oh, it timed out on me. Not just you guys, we get timed out too. So if we come into Realist and we open up that property, we'll come in here and type it again, 2836 Northwest 21st Place, search. We'll pull up our property, double click it so we can click into it. This pulls the entire report on the property, right? So you could do a printout of this and bring it to, maybe you're sitting down to do like a pre-CMA meeting with those sellers. You can verify all of the information that's in here. They've got the print reports, you can customize them, all of that. But the comparables are in here. And these are what the system believes to be comparables, probably very similar to what you see inside of Matrix, but you can edit out this experience and generate a report. You can print it, you can email it, kind of like a simplified report. So if we scroll through this, you can see this is just kind of a very basic overview. Maybe you're in the starting steps. Maybe it's just for a buyer who's like needing a CMA on a possible property, things like that. They do have that in here. And again, though, they've got a lot of data out here for like the neighborhood analytics and things like that you can add into your report as well. But just an option of something that's there for you for a quick button. One of my favorite places to do a CMA also is RPR, for those of you who have not taken my CMA classes before. Oh my goodness, hold on, I'm timed out. In RPR, it's the same thing. You're going to search the address. Um, and it's gonna make a liar out of me. It's gonna make me sign in, isn't it? Nope, it went through. If you guys ever go to sign into something and we have like the one-click sign in, if it doesn't work, it just means that this dashboard on the back end has gone stale. So refresh your page if you need to re-sign in, re-sign in. If not, just go ahead, refresh, and then click into that tool again, and you can see like magic, it works. So in here, if we open up that property, 2836 Northwest 21st Place. In here, there is a CMA tab, which I've used this in a class before, so you'll probably see all of the steps. Yep, you can see all the things I filled out before. You'll have buttons running down along the side here to complete. Why I love the RPR CMA report so much is your report can be as much as like, I think the biggest, not the biggest, but I've seen a lot of reports that are like 85 pages long. So if you have that person that's detail oriented and they need every little thing on every surrounding property around them and every little analytic detail about their own property and how it compares to the others, RPR is going to be your like secret weapon. Like I said, 86 pages. But when you get to the end of it, when you go to create that report, if you don't want to include everything, you can take off a whole bunch of those details. So you can make the report, a mere 10 pages if you don't want it to be 86 pages. But right here is how you get to that CMA. Again, this one is RPR, and you would go through the same steps, right? You've got your comparables, you find your properties, you add in your why me flyers, things like that. So then the last one that I talked to is Remine. Remine does produce a very like simplistic, basic CMA. And that's not in a negative sense. Again, it depends on the personality of the customer you're dealing with. If they're like, hey, just give me like the quick facts, don't bore me all day, I don't have time for you and all of your details, then you're going to go for a different type of report than the 86 pager that RPR gave us, right? So same thing, we come out here, we'll go to search, type in our subject property. West 21st Place. And we click it, we open it, there's our beautiful property, and here's the CMA button right there, Create CMA. Now, for those of you that use Cloud CMA, if you connect it in your profile down here, you can pull all of the details from Remine into Cloud CMA. So if you or your brokerage have that, great option. If not, no worries. The Remine 360 CMA is included because you have the Pro version here with Florida Gulf Coast MLS. So you enter in these basic parameters, choose your property, and then it spits out, like I said, a basic report here at the end. So if I were you and you're new or you're looking for a new tool, I would try all of these. Really, at the end of the day, try all of these, figure out what you like best. But again, like I told you guys earlier, when I was practicing, I used all of these tools because when I had that detail-oriented person, I was out in RPR pulling the 86-page report. And let me tell you what, I was their hero at the end of the day. They're like, how did you do this? And for the person who was like, don't bore me, just tell me what I need to do. I want to get my house on the market. Well, I was going into Matrix, pulling out just the basic forms that I needed, not all the fluff. And providing them that as well. So some days, you're going to have your favorite tool, but sometimes it's multiple of them. And that's why we have people that ask us, well, we do CMAs, you've got CMA tools. Why do you have so many of them? Well, because they all work differently. They're all made for different clients. They're made for different realtors. They're made for different situations. So, but at any point, as you guys are digging through this and you're utilizing it, if you have questions, rely on us here. Aside from myself, you've got an entire team of 6 here in your MLS department. We answer the phones and we answer emails at mls@rpcra.org from 8:30 to 5 all day long. And we are here to help you with whatever it is you need, your CMAs, your market stats, whatever it might be. But until we hear from you, I hope that we can find you next Monday on our next MLS Monday. And we will talk to you guys soon. Have a fabulous day.